Welcome to another edition of your favorite magazine program. It's flu season, so whether you're healthy or you're fighting a bad case of the bug, practice these good health habits. Avoid contact with sick persons. Do not touch your eyes, ears, or mouth after handling money, touching doorknobs, and any other commonly used surface. And yes, be sure to disinfect those surfaces. Remember to cover your mouth and nose when sneezing or coughing. Wash your hands regularly, and if water is unavailable, use an alcohol-based sanitizer. The most important tool against the flu, however, is a healthy body. So get lots of sleep and exercise. Drink your fluids and eat nutritious foods. Our show starts right now.
Don't make diseases spread. Wash your hands with soap and water instead. Wash them regular or use a hand sanitizer. Make sure the germs them dead. Touching your eyes or your mouth or your nose. Wash your hands before you do things like those. After you use the bathroom before preparing food, come on, wash your hand them clean.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh and this is your JIS News for Monday, January 22. The governments of Jamaica and the Republic of Italy have signed a double taxation agreement. Last Friday's signing addresses taxes on income and the prevention of tax evasion and avoidance. It also seeks to advance trade and investment relations between Jamaica and Italy.
On behalf of the government of Jamaica, I confirm our commitment to meeting international standards for transparency in tax matters. In light of the vast opportunities for investment and trade which may be realized within a proper, transparent, and legal framework.
Double taxation is the levying of tax by two or more jurisdictions on the same declared income, asset, or financial transaction. Minister Shaw says that under the agreement, the Italian government must acknowledge the payment of taxes in Jamaica and determine what Italian companies operating locally are required to pay to their home country.
This is all about transparency. This is all about having everything above board, and so there is no misunderstanding.
Italy's ambassador to Jamaica, Armando Varaccio, says the agreement will improve the business environment and provide a key asset for companies that want to expand operations in both countries.
This agreement will certainly provide the fiscal conditions for sound investment and trade, and those help us promote capital inflow and expand foreign trade in our respective countries.
The finance minister is lauding the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, which he says performed strongly to rank among the top 10 capital market indices globally. This ranking came at the end of 2017.
For the period April to December of last year, the main index advanced by 28.84%. In the junior market index, during that same period, the number of transactions increased by 58.6%. The volume traded increased by 139.7%. And the value traded increased by 76.3% when compared with the same period in 2016.
Minister Shaw says it's also noteworthy that the junior market is projected to generate approximately $17.9 billion in equity in 2018 from the listing of over 20 additional companies.
This is a clear indication that more investors are utilizing the market in the pursuit of capital for business expansion.
The finance minister was speaking at Mayberry Investments Limited's monthly investors forum recently. Government is putting greater focus on training persons for higher-end activities and high-value positions in the business process outsourcing BPO sector. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Daryl Vaz, says the work has begun to diversify the types of jobs performed in Jamaica to create more opportunities for tertiary graduates.
In this regard, the Port Authority of Jamaica, through its free zones, will be working closely with the Hard Trust and the Business Processing Industry Association of Jamaica to develop a second phase incubator geared towards knowledge service and technology type work.
Minister Vaz was speaking at the opening of the IBEX headquarters for the Caribbean and Central America, located in the Digicel building in downtown Kingston. He says the IDB will fund the Port Authority's activities to create a skills development program to include the implementation of a finishing school.
We are putting our plans in place to move up the value chain. Our next step includes going more in depth in such areas as shared services, legal process outsourcing, and medical process outsourcing.
The Joint Security Forces are reporting encouraging results so far from the public state of emergency that's now in effect for St. James. Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared the state of emergency on January 18. Since then, Colonel Daniel Price of the Jamaica Defense Force says that within the first 24 hours of operations, 1 Kalashnikov rifle and 6 live rounds were seized in Flanker. He was addressing a media briefing Saturday morning at Burke Barracks in Montego Bay. Colonel Price says the high-powered weapon is suspected to have been used in a recent killing in the parish and will undergo ballistic and forensic testing to determine its history. He also disclosed that 8 members of the Sparta gang who were wanted for murder and other gun-related crimes were arrested in Flanker. On Friday, another 15 persons were arrested in connection with the illegal purchase and sale of petrol in Freeport. Colonel Price says the JDF will continue with targeted operations, vehicle checks, cordon and searches, patrols and snap raids to put pressure on the gangs and restore peace to St. James. He called for community support in providing intelligence.
Our operations are only as good as the intelligence that drives them, and that good intelligence is already out there in the community. We urge persons to use the JDF tip hotline 837-8888. I say again, 837-8888. To call and tell us what you know about criminal activities in your community.
Meanwhile, St. James residents have been embracing the state of public emergency for their parish. Several spoke to JIS News and said the measure was long overdue.
I think it's a really good thing. It's long overdue, actually.
It allows me to be more safer, feel more comfortable, but what I think they need to do is to, especially in the public area, like for instance the bus park, I need to see more presence of the police there.
I think it's a good move by the Prime Minister because the crime and violence has escalated a lot, and I think doing this, it will decrease the amount of violence that is going on, and then people feel safer, whether it be coming in town or going home, and I think it's a good move.
The move has also found support from tourists in Montego Bay, who told our news team that the measure would not deter them from returning to the island for future visits.
It does make you feel a little safer. That things are, how can you put it? They're taking steps to curb what's going on.
Yeah, we feel very safe and no problem. We've been coming to Montego Bay for the last 5 years, and we stay for 6 months a year and never had any problems.
And finally, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has provided relief supplies for the children formerly housed at the Walker's Place of Safety, which was destroyed by fire last week. Portfolio Minister Shahini Robinson presented food supplies, sheeting, beds, school bags, toiletries, and other items.
At the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we have the responsibility for taking care of the most vulnerable in the society. And when something like this happens, we must respond.
Minister Robinson thanked the Maxfield Park Children's Home and the other 2 places of safety that are accommodating the children and staff affected by the fire. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Whether you drive on 2 wheels or 4, there's one thing I can guarantee you. That is that you know someone that's gonna need blood one day, or you might just be that someone. So here's the deal. The blood we have can only supply about 50% of the need. That's why, with the craziness that's happening on the roads, we need you to join the One Love, One Blood campaign. A life you save just might be your own.
We now join Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his team for the major happenings at the office of the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister tackles crime in St. James, welcomes the launch of the political party registration policy, and urges persons to create wealth from family businesses. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Twyla Whelan. Prime Minister Andrew Holness last week took action to curtail the crime rate in St. James.
A state of public emergency is now in effect for the parish of St. James.
Speaking at a press conference at Jamaica House on Thursday, the Prime Minister said the operation was geared at criminals and their facilitators. But he acknowledged that the public state of emergency would also create discomfort for law-abiding citizens and asked for their cooperation.
Now is the time. If you know where the guns are, please tell us. If you know where the criminals are, please tell us. The reward for guns program is still in effect. The number to call is Crime Stop 311 or call the Security Forces hotline.
The Governor-General signed the proclamation to effect the state of public emergency, which has also been gazetted. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness addressed another function last week and declared that the time had come for government to take firm and resolute measures to tackle crime. The Prime Minister said the measures would be within the context of the law and the preservation of human rights.
We have reached the point where we are now prepared to take those firm and resolute measures to ensure that the crime monster does not destabilize the promising future that is in store for Jamaica.
Mr. Holness was speaking in Mandeville at the 50th anniversary of Fontana Pharmacy on Wednesday. The Prime Minister also joined in prayer for the nation at the 38th National Leadership Prayer Breakfast last week. It was held under the theme, "Let's Stop It, Return to Righteousness." On other matters, Prime Minister Andrew Holness urged persons to use family businesses to build wealth. He was speaking in Mandeville at the 50th anniversary of Fontana Pharmacy on Wednesday.
The family gives a structure through which ownership can be determined and passed on. It gives the context within which innovation can happen. The family gives a very good stage on which businesses can emerge.
And growth continues in the business process outsourcing BPO sector with the opening of a new location. On Wednesday, Minister with responsibility for economic growth and job creation, Darrell Vaz, welcomed the official opening of the IBEX Global Office at the Digital Building in downtown Kingston. Minister Vaz said the BPO office was in line with the government's plan to make Kingston the premier place to do business.
I'm happy that you have found a home here in Kingston. It signals your confidence in Jamaica and in our capital city.
Minister Vaz also highlighted that initiatives under the National Outsourcing Strategy to double the sector's employees by the year 2020 are paying off, with high employment growth rate reaching 26,000 jobs. Also last week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed the launch of the political party registration policy. Mr. Holness said the policy would ensure greater accountability and transparency in the operations of political parties and also builds confidence in the electoral system.
We will now have a framework for the registration of political parties, while also facilitating a system whereby an accurate and up-to-date record can be kept on each political party.
On Tuesday, Prime Minister Holness gave instructions for review of the policies and procedures surrounding the management of childcare facilities. The directive was given ahead of his visit to the Walker's Place of Safety, which was gutted by fire and claimed the lives of 2 children.
It certainly brings to the forefront the need for government to make sure that places of safety are actually safe, that the places that we provide for our children who are less fortunate or who are under the care of the courts or who are in need of special care, that those places that the government provides, that they are safe places and truly are meeting the standards that the society would require.
Meanwhile, over in Portland, Minister with responsibility for economic growth and job creation Darrell Vaz said progress was being made in restoring access to 2 communities marooned by flooding and landslide due to heavy rains. Minister Vaz visited the area on Tuesday to assess, among other things, the temporary trench dug to drain water from the main road leading to communities. He said a design and cost estimate for a more long-term solution was expected shortly.
And we are hoping that within 2 weeks we can have not only a design but an estimate that I can present to the Minister and the CEO of NWA.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness was also kept busy last week with several meetings. At Jamaica House, he met with trade unions to discuss the ongoing wage negotiations with public sector workers and hosted Ambassador of Cuba to Jamaica, Her Excellency Ines Forres Fernandez, and Ambassador of the Republic of Italy to Jamaica, His Excellency Armando Varricchio. And finally on Saturday, Mr. Holness paid last respects to former Deputy Leader of the Jamaica Labour Party and former State Minister in the Ministry of Social Security, Enid Bennett. Ms. Bennett was Member of Parliament for Central St. Catherine and later West Central St. Catherine.
Enid's heart was big. She was fierce. She was courageous. And she will be heard.
And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. Do join us next time for more of the news coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
As we continue our Year in Review series, we join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade for highlights of their major achievements in 2017.
"2017 marked 55 years of excellence for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. It was a very active year with several trade and economic engagements, as well as international and regional visits.
As a small island developing state with an open economy, highly reliant on foreign trade, we must secure improved market opportunities beyond our shores.
So steps were taken in 2017 to strengthen the country's foreign trade position and secure trade agreements for other ministries, such as the signing of a memorandum of understanding to export lobster and other aquatic products to the Chinese market. Efforts to leverage Jamaica's bilateral relations with key countries in 2017 resulted in the signing of several agreements. Partnerships were formed with China in the area of sports and health care. A 220-bed hospital for children is to be built in Montego Bay.
The letters of exchange outline the specific commitment by our two governments for the management and sustainability of the project, including the design of the facility, the support and supply and importation of construction machinery, equipment, and materials.
Jamaica also strengthened ties with Korea and Mexico. The People's Republic of Korea donated 3 vehicles to the government, while Mexico engaged in knowledge transfer in the areas of disaster risk management, security, and agriculture. Multilateral partnerships were also tapped into for their support of Jamaica's national development goals. Among them, an assessment of climate change on our shorelines and the signing of the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
We have a long-standing commitment to the goal of achieving a nuclear weapons-free world and are a state party to the Treaty of Tlatelolco, which declared the Caribbean and Latin America as the first nuclear weapon-free zone in a densely populated area.
Jamaica also participated in the facilitation of access to funds by less developed member states of CARICOM, strengthened areas of international child abduction prevention, and was appointed to serve on key boards and councils. National interests were significantly advanced through high-level visits to a number of countries, as well as through the hosting of senior officials in Jamaica. Visits overseas include Singapore, India, and Chile.
Our discussions on these topics and the commitment we made to securing tangible outcomes will advance Jamaica's goal of driving economic growth and job creation and developing the country's overall sustainable development agenda.
Back home, Jamaica was pleased to host senior officials from Chile, Indonesia, and China. A diaspora protocol and a consular division was created in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade to focus solely on diaspora engagements and initiatives. In July, the ministry hosted a successful Jamaica 55 Diaspora Conference in Kingston under the theme, Partnering for Growth.
The Jamaica 55 Diaspora Conference presents a platform for us to move strategically into a new era of diaspora-homeland partnership.
This is inclusive of the business opportunities in logistics, business process outsourcing, nutraceuticals, and agriculture.
The event was attended by approximately 1,340 participants from countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, Canada, Cayman, Japan, and Nigeria. 2017 also witnessed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs partnering with other ministries and agencies to provide assistance to Jamaicans in Caribbean countries that were affected by Hurricane Irma and Marie. 185 nationals were evacuated. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in 2017, enabling Jamaica's growth agenda with strong performance and partnerships for prosperity.
Significant developments in transport and mining in support of government's robust economic growth plan.
Today we are seeing the implementation of the cabinet decision to decommission the Aeronautical Training School to support logistic development in the port of Kingston.
Catch the review on Tuesday, January 23 on this station inside Jamaica Magazine.
Up next, we journey to the University of the West Indies Physics Department for some answers on the projection of climate change.
Rainfall, drought, temperature levels, and wind speed are all variables in the assessment of climate change. These days, when most people speak of climate change, they're talking about global warming. But climate change is a much broader term that takes into account more than surface temperature increases. Either way, it's a complex science that calls for sophisticated technologies to research, predict, and map a corrective plan where one is needed.
We do two things. So we look at present-day climate. And what we do is we take observations that have been collected by meteorological services across the region. So we look at rainfall, max temperature, minimum temperature. And we do our statistics on them to see how climate has changed already. What we also do is we look at future climate and we run climate change models. And these are just computer models.
To better understand the complex climate system, computer programs have been developed into models that highlight the interactions of climate components. These general circulation models have been used extensively to understand climate shifts, such as this hurricane-like vortices. This model is a projection of the frequency and intensity of a hurricane in the year 2097 between July and August. It will also estimate how hurricanes are projected to change. What this means is, if average weather patterns over an extended period are significantly altered, then it indicates a change in climate change. Other models look at lightning pattern and simulators to help farmers increase their yields while mitigating against excess rain and drought periods.
A number of technologies are used. If we're looking at present-day climate, for example, and the changes that have already occurred, we rely heavily on data from our meteorological centers. So we're looking at technologies behind data collection and storage and dissemination. We also make use of satellite data. It helps us with our observations. When we run these models, we compare them to what we have in our observations to see how well the models are capturing observations. So if it is doing a pretty good job, then we have some confidence that what the model is projecting in the future will be accurate. Another thing we do with our model output is we compare it with other models to see whether there's consistency in the results. Another thing we do is to see whether the output we're seeing corresponds to the kind of signs we're expecting from climate change.
A lot of our activities revolve around climate. We know, for example, that at certain times of the year we can expect more rainfall. So we might organize our crop production cycle to align with this flush period.
We are now looking on agriculture and looking on, well, what happens in a drier, warmer climate, how will it affect yields? And we're looking on the study of how that happens. We look on other diseases, we look on the disaster risk reduction in terms of hurricanes, the number of hurricanes, the intensity of hurricanes, what does that mean for shoreline protection?
So why are we going to all this trouble? Because climate change is as much a reality for us as any other country. A look at climatic conditions over the last part of the 20th century revealed some interesting things, like an increase in the frequency of hot days and nights, a decrease in the frequency of cold days and nights, a decrease in the difference between maximum and minimum temperatures, a decline in the maximum number of consecutive dry days, and a slight drying trend in summer rainfall.
Some studies have indicated that our hurricanes would have stronger winds and more rainfall associated with it. Other studies have shown that global sea level will continue to rise, and by extension we expect that for the Caribbean.
This kind of information is useful to the process of governance. The data, if accurate, will help government identify potential and current problems and plan appropriate responses.
And that's where we leave you on today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. So glad you could have joined us. Be sure to keep in touch with us using the usual channels. There's Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. There's also our trusted website, jis.gov.jm. See the links on our screen for our social media handles. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.